Good evening. We're ready to begin. This Planning Commission meeting is called to order. And before we start, I just want to take a second and welcome Commissioner Chadha for joining us, and appreciate you being on the commission with us and bringing your knowledge and wisdom. And I didn't acknowledge you in the last meeting just to make sure that you'd be here today, and you liked us. So thanks for joining us. All right. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV, Cable Channel 2. Please note customers of CenturyLink and Cox Communication can view this program in high definition on channel 1002 and in standard definition on channel 2. You can also watch this meeting live on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Go Vegas app. The Planning Commission meeting, as well as all their KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.kclv.tv/live. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV and the web this Saturday of the meeting at 10 a.m., Monday at midnight, and the following Tuesday at 6 p.m. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Chair Cherry.
Present.
Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Present.
Commissioner Schlottman.
Present.
Commissioner Toussaint.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Rogan.
Present.
Commissioner Chadha.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I call your attention to the information printed in your agenda concerning our actions in the appeal and review process. If appropriate, please read this carefully, and if you have any questions, staff is available. There's agendas on both sides of the podium. Also, the second page of the agenda contains our rules of conduct. We appreciate you adhering to these rules so we can have a smooth meeting. And I'll quickly go to Eric with staff. I think we have a...
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to call your attention to the agenda that was published last week to the public had one item that was out of order. In the public's agenda, the item titled Citizens Participation shows up as number 6 when it should be number 4. So on your agenda, item 6 basically got pulled to become number 4, and your agenda reads in the correct order. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to item number 4, public comment. All comments made under this item for specific action will be cross-referenced to those items. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak under this portion of the agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move on to item number 5. For possible action to approve the final minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of July 9th, 2019. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from July 9, 2019.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. That motion carries. Moving on to our housekeeping items. Item number 6, are there any items that commissioners, staff, applicants, or members of the public would like to pull forward for action? Commissioner Rogan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to pull item number 11 forward. I also have a point of order that I just want to raise for a second with regard to the item we just approved. Isn't it the meeting minutes from July 23rd that we should be moving to approve?
Maybe we can have the clerk's office respond to that. Clerk, are those the correct minutes?
That would be the Department of Planning that prepares the agenda, the minute.
So it is the 9th that's the...
I believe it is the 9th because we go back 2 agendas because there's a review cycle for the minutes that are submitted from the clerk's office for review by staff.
Okay, thank you. I understand now.
Thank you. Are there any other items that would like to be pulled? Sir?
I'm Kevin Christensen. I wanted to be heard on item number 11, which I think you were about to pull.
Yeah, it'll be heard in the public hearing.
I'm sorry?
It'll be heard in the public hearing portion of the agenda.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have some housekeeping items.
Yep.
The applicant is requesting to obey item 25 to the September 10th, 2019 Planning Commission. This is the third abeyance request for this item. The applicant is requesting to obey items 32 through 35 to the September 10th, 2019 Planning Commission. This is the second abeyance request for these items, and the applicant is requesting to withdraw without prejudice item number 43. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we have a vote, I will point out on item number 25, I know they've worked with Commissioner Williams, being it is the third request. I feel that it is just warranted to be on here. So, Vice Chair, can we have a...
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the housekeeping items as read into the record.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, just for the record, that includes the good cause for the abeyance of number 25, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Okay, moving on to the consent items. Consent items are considered routine by the Planning Commission and may be enacted by one motion. However, any of these items may be discussed if a commissioner or applicant so desires. I'll go to staff. I believe, was there some conditions on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For item number 8, we would like to remove conditions number 6 and number 10. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda item and with removing the conditions on item number 8, number 6, and 10.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Those items are final action unless appealed to the city clerk in 7 days.
Okay, moving on to the one motion, one vote. The following are items that may be considered in one motion, one vote. They are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearings and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any person representing an application or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the application recommended by staff should request to have the item removed from this part of the agenda. Item number 12. MOD 76935, applicant owner, Howard Hughes Company, LLC, for possible action request for a major modification of the approved Summerlin Master Development Plan to change the Summerlin SFSD development standards to include an attached product type, including Exhibits 2.1 and 2.11. Ward 2, staff recommends approval. Related item, MOD 76936, for possible action request for a major modification of the approved Summerlin Village 21 Master Development Plan to change the Summerlin land use designation on 3 parcels, JK and M, from SFA, single family attached, and 5 parcels, NOPQR, from VC and SFA to SFSD, and 1 parcel from SFA to MF1. At the northwest corner of Far Hills Drive in Clark County 215, Ward 2, staff recommends approval. Related item 14, TMP 76950, applicant Richmond American Homes of Nevada, Inc., owner Howard Hughes Company, LLC, for possible action request for a tentative map for an 86-lot, single-family residential subdivision on the southeast corner of Kindle Corner Way in Desert Foothills Drive, Ward 2. Staff recommends approval. Item number 15, ZON 76884, applicant owner L. Walker, LLC, for possible action request for rezoning from R4 and R1 to C1 at the southeast corner of Bonneville Avenue and 8th Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Related item 16, SUP 76885, for possible action request for a special use permit for proposed multifamily residential development, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Related item SDR 76886, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 3-story tall, 18,600 square foot mixed-use building, including 2,675 square feet of office space, with waivers of Appendix F, interim downtown Las Vegas Area 2 development standards, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 18, VAR 76861, variance, public hearing, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for possible action request for a variance to allow deviations from Title 19.10.020 CV development standards at the southeast corner of Marion Drive and Harris Avenue, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Related item 18, SDR 76862, for possible action on request for a site development plan review for proposed city park, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 20, SUP 76868, applicant Jason Taylor, owner ProView Series 32 LLC, for possible action on request for a special use permit for proposed 1,203 square foot tavern limited establishment with 1,542 square feet of outdoor seating area at 1327 South Main Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Related item SUP 76869, for possible action on the request for a special use permit for proposed 1,203 square foot beer wine cooler on and off sale establishment with 1,542 square feet of outdoor seating area at 1327 South Main Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 22, SUP 76766, applicant William Doyle, owner Afrit Investment, Inc., for possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed 4,014 square foot beer, wine, cooler on and off sale establishment use with 222 square feet of outdoor dining at 914 South Main Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 23, SUP 76891, applicant Daniel Simmons, owner BK Nevada Investments LLC, for possible action request for a special use permit for proposed 3,400 square foot tavern limited establishment use with 840 square feet of outdoor seating area at 1130 South Casino Center Boulevard, Suite 170, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. And finally, item number 24, SDR 76887, applicant owner Good Hood LLC, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for proposed 6-story parking garage with 8,403 square feet of ground level retail space and 1-story, 8,528 square foot addition to an existing 35,481 square foot office building with waivers of Appendix F interim downtown Las Vegas Area 1 development standards at 201 South Las Vegas Boulevard. Staff recommends approval. And Vice Chair, before I go to you, I'd like to disclose on items number 22, 23, and 20 that I either live or have projects in the general vicinity. It doesn't affect me any greater or lesser, so I will be voting on them tonight. Commissioner Schlotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you on items 20, 21, 22, and 23. I'd make a disclosure that I own a urban lounge within the Arts District within the notification area. We're fairly close to each of these, so I'll be abstaining on those matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to pull item number 11 as requested and approve the one motion, one vote as read into the record.
Thank you. There's a motion.
We'll just need to indicate that the public hearing's open.
Oh, I apologize. That's right. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? This is for the one motion, one vote portion of the agenda. No problem. Thanks. Okay. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to pull item number 11 to be heard as requested and approve the one motion, one vote as read into the record.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 12 through 19 and 24 will move forward to City Council on September 18, 2019, and items 20 through 23 are final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are moving on to the public hearing items portion of the agenda. Starting with number 11, I will be abstaining from this item. My family is in the cannabis industry. I will turn it over to Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Give me one second here. Item number 11, SUP 76579, special use permit. Applicant Nevada Organic Remedies LLC, owner Bridge Group Investments LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 1,146 square foot marijuana dispensary use at 1725 South Rainbow Boulevard, Suite 21. May I have the staff report?
Mr. Vice Chairman, the subject site complies with all minimum distance requirements as set forth by Title 19, and staff finds the use can be conducted in a compatible and harmonious manner with the existing surrounding land uses. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this special use permit. Please note that there are additional letters of protest and support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. Ryan Arnold, here tonight representing the applicant, Nevada Organic Remedies. I appreciate the board having us back. I know last time the desire was have us hold the item so we could have our neighborhood meeting, and I'll get to that at the end of my remarks here. First off, I just wanted to address the technical merits, if you will, of the application. Like staff indicated, we meet all the basic requirements, and that is the 1,000-foot distance separation from any protected use, closest school and so on, the 300-foot from any community facility and park and whatnot. One of the reasons we looked at this and we're considering this location is if you look at the map here, directly to the west of us is a rather large, I believe it's a detention basin, flood water control, I believe. And if you measure that out, it's about 700 feet from roughly our storefront to the nearest the home. The other thing to consider here is that we're on what I believe Rainbow is a 120-foot right-of-way, a major thoroughfare here in the valley. So again, trying to take everything into consideration, we felt this was an adequate and appropriate location. The space that we're looking at is 1,288 square feet. So by all regards, this is a rather small dispensary. Our concept is, and I'll bring one of the principals up here in a minute and he can touch on this in a little more detail, but one of our concepts here is to actually make this a boutique. It's going to sell one brand, and it's not going to have the vast variety that you would see in some of our other locations. Beyond that, let me bring up Brandon Wygant. He's one of the principals with Nevada Organic Remedies, and I'll let him address our neighborhood meeting and some of the comments we had there.
Hello, my name is Brandon Wygand, W-I-E-G-A-N-D for the record. As Ryan alluded to, this is a small boutique location. We have a store down the road, the Source Dispensaries, which is a store that carries many brands. This is a concept we're looking to deploy that's a boutique property or boutique store that would carry a single brand that we produce. Again, as Ryan alluded, we try to find a location that met all the distance separation requirements, aren't asking for any special treatment, hits all the points that we're looking for, and look forward to getting it approved. We did hold our neighborhood meeting. There were some concerns addressed, primarily, I think, safety and traffic in the neighborhood. I think I attempted to address those through the size of the location. We're not going to be a high traffic driver like our store down the road is. The other concern I had heard was hours of operation, and I think we were willing to concede on some of those points. If we look at the neighborhood, there's a Lee's Discount Liquor that has hours that I think we'd be willing to model if it made the neighborhood happy. Any questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Stotman.
Yes, I just wanted to disclose that I've worked on constructed several dispensaries and cultivation facilities, production facilities, and but this won't have any effect on me one way or another. I hadn't worked with these individuals, and so my independence of judgment won't be affected, and I'll be voting on this matter. And just wanted to say that before you turn it over to public comment.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you guys could just step to the side. This is noticed as a public hearing. If anybody from the public wishes to be heard, please come forward, state your name for the record, and I'll give you each 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Diane Harrington. I represent the Rainbow Family Park Neighborhood Association, which is in Ward 1. We basically are on the boundaries of Rainbow, Buffalo, and then on the north and south, Charleston and Sahara. And we have 700 homes in our neighborhood, and we are opposed to the dispensary. We don't think it is good for our neighborhood. We don't think our goal is to provide a neighborhood association and a community that is family-oriented, and we don't feel like this business would be in line with what we are hoping for our neighborhood.
Thank you. There is 3 mics, if you guys want to line up, we can move this along. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Ilana Graham, Graham. I live on Bel Castro. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the meeting that we were able to have with the applicants here. The major problem we have a traffic problem. It's become a public safety issue for our neighborhood. Oki is a gateway for our neighborhood. And Oki, if you can reference the map, is right down the center. The applicant wants to go in this corner here that's outlined in the rectangle. This, I don't know if you have the map up there, but this shopping center exits right onto Oki, right into our neighborhood. That's different from Lee's Liquor. That does not go right into our neighborhood. The water basin here provides very little to no protection for us. Because of our neighborhood group advocacy, we were able to get a traffic study on Del Rey within the past 12 months. Del Rey is 25 miles per hour. My brother lives on that street. I walk with my 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and 4-year-old to his house. He has a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. The average speed on Del Rey right now is approximately 50 miles an hour. We were able to get speed humps put in due to that traffic. People use Del Rey to cut through to avoid the light on the top right-hand corner of this circle at Rainbow and Charleston. I can all but guarantee, without sounding doomsday, that the traffic on Del Rey is absolutely going to increase if we put a high-frequency, high-volume business, which, with all due respect, I just don't believe that any term of boutique will make this any less different than most dispensaries that just run people through constantly. And I commend small business. I appreciate small business, but truly it's a public safety issue for the traffic in our neighborhood right now. And I just ask that you all please consider that. We're already battling traffic. It's documented, it's supported, thanks to all of you approving the speed humps that we have put in. And the last thing I'll say is we already have 2. I could literally throw a rock essentially to the 2 on Sahara and Rainbow. Our neighborhood shouldn't have to burden a 3rd until everybody else has in their neighborhood a 2nd. Then we can start talking about trying to buffer in more. But I appreciate your time and consideration. I would just please have you think of our neighborhood and protecting it from a public safety aspect.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Please say your name first.
My name is Keith Thomas. I live at 1561 Windhaven Circle, which is about 3 blocks from the proposed location. I also work with the Rainbow Family Park Neighborhood Association and have for the last 2 years been working with Councilwoman Tarkanian on her efforts to help create neighborhoods, to help make our neighborhoods more beautiful, more cohesive. And through various efforts, including the neighborhood program fund that the city has so generously provided. In terms of creating neighborhood and a cohesive and beautiful neighborhood, this particular application is the wrong application in the wrong location. The potential that we think for adverse impact on our neighborhood far outweighs any potential good that could come from putting a marijuana dispensary there. This particular dispensary in terms of location, yes, has that detention basin immediately to the west of it, but immediately to the north of it and immediately to the south of it, there's homes. And in addition, people that are going to be accessing that dispensary are going to probably not going to go down Rainbow, they're going to go up Oki. So they're going to start cutting through our neighborhood and further deteriorate the conditions in our neighborhood. There's a daycare center, preschool about a block to the south. There's the Rainbow Family Park is about a block to the west. Fireman's Park is a block to the east. You've got the Baha'i Center is less than a half a block away. The LDS Church is about 2 blocks away. Our concern is that the patrons are going to that if approved there and the patrons go there and they buy their product, where are they going to go to consume the product? Well, they can't smoke in the casinos, they can't smoke in the bars. Where are they going to smoke? Well, maybe they'll go home. But more likely than not, they're not going to be able to go home. They're going to go to the nearest available location. And where is that? Rainbow Family Park or Fireman's Park, each of which are just right on Oki. So for, again, the potential adverse impact on our neighborhood and the fact that we're already saturated with marijuana dispensaries in the area. We have, I think, 3 or 4, like I say, with almost a stone's throw. But so, again, I would urge the commissioners to deny SUP 76579.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Please state your name for the record, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Gina Marcoux. I also live in the neighborhood and am strongly opposed due to all the points that my neighbors pointed out, specifically the parks. There are 3 parks on Oakey, one at Buffalo, one at Rainbow, and one below Rainbow at Torrey Pines. There's also a high school right off of Oakey and Torrey Pines within walking distance, and there are many children walking to and from. And the traffic in the area, as everyone mentioned, has increased tremendously, and we do not need another dispensary like a 7-Eleven or a CVS on every corner in our neighborhood where there's lots of parks and children. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Graham Coder. I live on 7110 Doe Avenue. And before I give my remarks, I wanted to specifically thank the council and the planning commission. I've told all of my friends and family and relatives how impressed I was that Chairperson Cherry and Commissioner Schlotman and Commissioner Rogan have all honestly stated the reasons why they've recused themselves. And I took a moment to teach my kids, this is what makes America great, right? So earn your tacos, kids, stand up. They behaved themselves tonight, they're gonna get tacos for behaving themselves. Those are my 5 children. And I wanted them to see tonight, I wanted them to see the honest men and women that are serving our community. And then thank you for your time tonight. So tonight we're represented by a few thousand people in our neighborhood. We've got HOAs, churches, schools, sport clubs, colleges, doctors' offices, and neighborhood associations who are all represented here. And we're all opposed to this motion. I hope that rings something to your ears. I would submit that the people in support of this motion pale by comparison. We've been given opportunities to voice our opinion with the city, and we thank you for that. We've expressed our concerns that are sometimes moral and ethical and religious and political, and we know that these are irrespective of tonight's issue. Coming up here, I just noticed that as you look at this map, if this is the 1,000-foot circle that we're talking about for schools, is that it? No? Okay. Well, within that circle is Bonanza High School. I thought I'd point that out. And finally, we're simply concerned and confused that the city and its planning commission are contemplating allowing more weed dispensaries in my neighborhood than 7-Elevens, more weed dispensaries than Home Depots, more weed and more marijuana than grocery stores. That's a problem. We shouldn't be the neighborhood that has to carry the marijuana load for the city and the region and the state. It shouldn't all be in our neighborhood. And we hope that despite the fact that the applicant is crossing his T's and dotting his I's, it should be something that's considered, because all he cares about are the lowercase j's, the doobies. We think that the concerns and the representations made on behalf of thousands of residents should not be ignored simply because he's doing everything right on his application. Though we're passionate about this item specifically, I would submit that our group is especially grateful for the manner and the honesty that's been displayed by the city and its planners. We thank you for that. This is the reason why, just like in our Pledge of Allegiance, we're indivisible, right? We think this is the reason that we're all be given justice for all. And I would submit that part of the problem here is that the application and the city, the planning commission, and the zoning currently does not consider, are there too many in one neighborhood? That's not part of the current process, which is to say that anyone can pass the test that the applicant passed and put a weed dispensary in my neighborhood with zero problem from this commission. That's currently, as it stands, as I understand it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record, ma'am.
Hi, Rochelle Cavaretta. My house, actually, the backyard, the wall is facing Oakey. We've been in our property for over 25 years. And from that time, and I know the city's grown and all of that, but Oakey has not. And you've got people, I shop at that plaza all the time, and they're always gonna go take the Oakey because it's easier, especially from the left-hand side. My problem is, we've always got cars and motorcycles and trucks so loud going down and racing easily 50 miles an hour. We are getting a street light, but it's really not helping. And we'd like actually some road bumps as well, because it's pretty bad. It's right there by the park. My house is kitty corner from it, and it's just not peaceful and quiet like a nice neighborhood should be, and it's because of all the traffic that's allowed to pass through. So I would appreciate taking the traffic into consideration on Oki as well. And Rainbow is just generally a mess. I didn't write anything down. I'm opposed to the marijuana store, and I do not like the traffic that goes up and down Oki already. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record, sir.
My name is Drew Schuback. I live at 1400 Casa del Rey Court. This is inside the yellow circle. I just want to reiterate, what my neighbors have been saying, that we are vehemently opposed to the marijuana store. There's an issue that hasn't been brought up that I could say that, there is a bus stop just north of where the store is, and jaywalking is a serious problem day and night going to there. There's a funeral home there. There was a traffic accident where a pedestrian was hit right there on Del Rey about 1.5 years ago. And it's just because obviously people aren't paying attention. They're looking for things. They might be under the influence. We have enough problems with Mr. D's motorcycle bar over there, and I'm sure our neighbors can hear that. We just don't need another little public nuisance. Marijuana, legal and illegal, is sold all over the place, and I don't see why we have to have just another outlet right here in our neighborhood. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name for the record.
Kyle Stevens. I've lived in the neighborhood nearly 30 years. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the effort that you're making to see our viewpoint related to our overview of arguments against this application. I think something that would be emphasized importantly is that there is a saturation of these businesses, frankly, in a neighborhood. I can count 4 within walking distance of my home. This would make the 5th. The neighborhood traffic increase on the streets of Rainbow, West Oki, and Del Rey, legitimate concerns. Neighborhood safety related to the increased traffic, legitimate concern, along with the possibility of increased crime. The poor placement of this proposed dispensary is that it would be in anybody, and it can be seen here on the map, within general walking distance of Bonanza High School, Fireman Park, Rainbow Family Park, the Baha'i Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the St. Joseph Husband of Mary Catholic Church, along with Jehovah's Witness Church, again, within general walking distance of this application, in addition to a children's pediatric clinic in the same complex. And again, I would conclude with the saturation of this business in our particular area of the city of Ward 1. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. If there's anybody else, there's 3 mics. Come up, please.
Julie Christensen, 2000 Homeview Court. I'm opposed to the marijuana dispensary. I appreciate this public forum. I appreciate the time that you give in our behalf. We've been down here so many times fighting to protect our neighborhood against STRs and against marijuana dispensaries. It is a saturation. We have so many, and I wonder about these older neighborhoods. Maybe people are moving out. What's moving in? I worry that we need to protect our neighborhoods from all these things that can come in and really cut the fiber of a neighborhood, and I think this is one of those things, and I appreciate your help in it. I'm going to defer to my husband.
Thank you. Please, sir, state your name.
That is my beautiful wife. My name is Kevin Christensen. I'm appearing for the Home Court Land Association, and I just wanted to point out one substantive item. You've heard, and you probably have considered some of these comments as perhaps emotional, perhaps not as substantive as some have characterized them in the past, but let me just point out your ordinance. It's under your Unified Development Ordinance, 19.16.110, it's subpart L, and it talks about the special use permit determinations. And there are 4 parts of that ordinance that have to be satisfied, and it reads as follows: in order to approve a proposed special use permit application, the Planning Commission must determine, number 1, the proposed use can be conducted in a manner that is harmonious and compatible with existing surrounding land uses. The multitude of the land use in the area is residential. There's no question that's where the emotional appeal comes this evening. Part D, approval of the special use permit at the site in question will not be inconsistent with or compromise the public health, safety, and welfare, or the overall objectives of the general plan. Now, we are convinced that you have our health, safety, and welfare concerns in mind as you consider those 2 requirements for a determination, and again, the word is must determine. At our meeting last week with the applicant, they were very, very kind to us and listened to all of our points. There were 24 to 25 people who spoke at that meeting, all in opposition. All in opposition. We've looked at the written oppositions on file, and I think last count that I saw, there were at least 18 written oppositions. And so for those reasons and the obvious deleterious effect that it will cause the community, we ask that you respectfully consider denial of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Please state your name for the record.
Zan Heyer, Homeview Court. I just want to support the things that my neighbors have said. Our neighborhood has been unfairly burdened with these types of business. We don't have the infrastructure to manage these. We're a family neighborhood with parks and schools and churches, and we are not able to handle the kind of traffic and deal with the safety issues that these things provide. I think our neighborhood deserves the same kind of protection that other neighbors get. I know that people that own these businesses live in Summerlin, and if they want to put one up there by them in Summerlin, then they can go and do that in their neighborhood. And I think our neighborhood deserves the same kind of protections that other neighbors deserve, that other neighborhoods get. And I support my neighborhood in wanting to keep it a happy family place without these kinds of dangerous things that come in.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else from the public wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and allow Mr. Arnold to have a rebut.
Okay, well, first off, I want to thank all the neighbors for coming out. I wish it was under different circumstances, and we do hear what they're saying. I just want to put a couple things on the record, maybe ask for staff's input as well. We continue to hear the amount of dispensaries in the area. As far as we're aware, there are 3 others. And I'm just going to give you the locations that I'm aware of, and I'll look to staff to correct me if I'm wrong here. We've got 2 in the county, Rainbow and Sahara, Buffalo and Sahara, and then 1 in the city, that's Decatur and Charleston. Those are the ones we're aware of. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just want to make sure I'm clarifying that for the board here. There are a lot of unknowns, and I understand this is a new business. It is something that is now legal in the state. We're abiding by all of the regulations, and in fact, it's less than 1,300 square feet. This is a very small location. We have on-site security. We control every location we have with an iron fist. We do not let any loitering in the parking lots. I mean, we continue to try to encourage these neighbors, if they haven't already, to stop in any of our other locations. It's not what everyone thinks. The last thing I'll say is, the area that we're proposing for, as you heard, there is a bar across the street, there's a liquor store, there's an adult store. It's Rainbow, 120-foot section line road. That's about as much as I can offer. So I appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate all the neighbors coming out, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. But before I turn it over to commission, I just got to ask, so you were going to explain to us what went on in the neighborhood meeting. Can you do that now, please?
Yeah, I can bring Brandon back up here to he ran the meeting, so he's most equipped.
Yeah, we held the neighborhood meeting last week.
State your name for the record.
I'm sorry, Brandon Wygand, W-I-E-G-A-N-D. Held the neighborhood meeting last week. Again, had in my opinion, a very organized meeting. Went around, heard everyone's concerns. What I heard consistently were concerns about traffic, which again, I tried to assuage those concerns with the size of our facility. Heard concerns about safety. There was a lot of emotional debate about the merits of whether or not marijuana should be illegal or legal. Those weren't mine to discuss. Again, we passed the ordinance and the laws on the books. But to touch base on exactly what we touched in the meeting, concerns about the neighborhood, concerns about traffic, concerns about, I think there was concerns about our ability to expand, concerns about the hours that we were open, and again, tried to address those as best I could.
And if I may, how many would you say were in attendance?
It is accurate, about 24 to 25. Do we have the exact list?
So I'm getting nods, so.
Okay, so we'll call it 24, 25. Was anybody there in support, or were they all just against the whole 24, 25?
I think everybody that showed up was against. We had some individuals that work with our organization that showed up in support. I wouldn't count those.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to commission. Anybody from the commission? Commissioner Rogan?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. First, I do want to reach out to the neighbors and thank them for coming to the neighborhood meeting last week and coming this evening and spending your time when you could be at home with your family doing things that you'd rather be doing than sitting here. I've sat in your seat many times before when we were fighting the special use permits for short-term rentals. I was president of the neighborhood association in my neighborhood for a year. I'm vice president now, so I know exactly what it takes and what you give up when you come out here for these different meetings. I also want to thank the applicant for hosting that neighborhood meeting. I think it shows dedication that you do care about the community in which you seek to be a part of. So this is a very difficult decision for me for those reasons that I said. I stand with neighborhoods because my heart is with you. When I sat down over the weekend to list out reasons for and against this dispensary going into this location, however, I went through the statutes, I went through the ordinance, Mr. Christensen, and my conclusion is that this location fits the ordinance. And I know that's not probably what a lot of you want to hear, so I want to explain my reasons why so that it's very clear as to why I'm supporting this application. First, this business meets all of the distance separations that are set out in the ordinance and in state statute. That's very important to me. We obviously don't want any of these businesses that are too close to churches and parks and schools. And our city council and we, the voters, when we pass this law, says 1,000 feet or 300 feet. And anything outside of that is fine. And our city council sure can change that if they so choose, but this meets the letter of the law, and that is important to me. Second, I think that this is not a too intense dispensary for the location. I have looked at the other applications and other dispensaries that we've approved, and this is smaller than most of those that we've looked at. I agree that there are traffic concerns in that neighborhood. My belief is whatever use you put in there is going to attract traffic to Oakey. It could attract traffic to Delray. Those are separate concerns that we have in our neighborhood and that we all need to address through public works. I also think that this use is consistent with some of the uses that we have in the area. Mr. Dees was mentioned, but you also have Lee's Discount Liquor. When marijuana was up for legalization, what was put forward to us was, do we treat marijuana just like we treat liquor? And the answer was yes. And in fact, the answer in the neighborhood surrounding this location was also yes. I went back to the results in all of the 4 precincts that border this location. The precincts that you all come from to the west of Rainbow were just barely 50% to 50%. There was about 5 votes difference. Just across Rainbow, it was more like 60% in favor of legalization. So we have people in the neighborhood that support it. We have a liquor store. We have Mr. D's. We also have a head shop that's located in the vicinity of it that sells marijuana-related paraphernalia. So I can't say that this commercial location is inconsistent with a marijuana dispensary. My biggest concern is saturation and traffic. I do agree with you that saturation is a concern that we need to have. It's a big concern. I don't want Rainbow in your neighborhood to become Marijuana Row, just like I don't want my neighborhood to suffer that same fate. That question, though, is a question that has to come, an answer that has to come from City Council. City Council is the one that has to tell us that a distance separation of 1 mile or 2 miles or 3 miles is the appropriate one. We can't draw that decision here tonight. That's not our role. It's a policy question. And for that reason, I'm not comfortable saying that your neighborhood is suffering from saturation without some guidance from City Council. I also note that in mapping out all of the locations in the dispensaries in Clark County, in Henderson, in North Las Vegas, there are several neighborhoods that also suffer from having 3 or more dispensaries in the general vicinity. Speaking specifically about Sahara and Las Vegas Boulevard, where there are already 3 within 3/4 of a mile, and a 4th is actually before the City Council. So finally, I know you're not happy with the recommendation that I'm making tonight, and my fellow commissioners can certainly chime in and have a different opinion than I do. But this is a decision that I made that is based upon my thorough review of the area, several times visiting that location, and thoroughly reviewing other applications and other dispensaries that we have already approved through the Planning Commission and that had already been approved from City Council. It's important to me, for our neighborhoods, that we are consistent in the decision-making that we have. If we have already let a dispensary like Silver Sage, which is located near my neighborhood at Charleston and Decatur, border a home, share a block wall with a home, it's very difficult for me to say, based upon that precedent, that placing a dispensary that borders a very large flood detention basin is inappropriate. We've set a precedent with the decisions that we've made in the past, and I'm not comfortable deviating from that precedent and treating one neighborhood any differently than we've treated another neighborhood in the past. So my decision comes from a sense of fairness and equity, and it doesn't come from anything other than making sure that all neighborhoods, regardless of where they are treated the same. I do have some conditions that I would suggest, but before I do, if there's any comments from fellow commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners wish to be heard on this?
Yes,
Commissioner Stoutman?
Mr. Vice Chair, just a few comments. I think you summed everything up, Commissioner Rogue. One of the big issues that I heard here from the neighbors tonight was the traffic. The traffic is an issue right now before the dispensary is coming in. Anything that goes in is going to add to that problem. So that's something that I would encourage the neighbors to reach out to the council person, and let's work with Public Works and the City Council and see what we can do to alleviate any kind of traffic concerns. Somebody come up here tonight, and I forget who it was, saying they wish there's speed humps or speed bumps in their neighborhood. Now, that's something that City Council has to approve. It's something that we can't do ourselves. But that's not what we're voting on tonight. I am from downtown. We have quite a bit of saturation in downtown, and so I don't want to repeat everything that you already said, but I do concur with your comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just would chime in, Commissioner Rogan, before you make whatever motion you're going to make. I had the concern about the mention of hourly restrictions. I'm concerned because if you shut that business, what protection do we have in place that would circumvent any robberies or thefts or vandalism or whatever? I'm just worried if you put a cap on the hours, then that person's going to know this is the time to strike. So I mean, I'm not in favor of putting an hour restriction on it just because of that. I'd rather see the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week security on that property than not. So I would ask, are you guys, do you have a plan if you had restricted hours?
Brandon Wygand for the record, W-I-E-G-A-N-D. Yes, we have active monitoring surveillance at our facilities 24 hours a day. So even if the store's closed and staff has gone home, there's active monitoring, which means somebody's looking at our cameras, monitoring for activity, so they can alert and dispatch. Anything that happens, there's visuals so they can dispatch police or LEO.
Thank you. With that, Commissioner Rogan?
I do want to discuss with you the restrictions or conditions that I think are appropriate for this location. The first is, you keep saying you're like your liquor store, and I know that's what we voted on, so your hours are going to be just like the liquor store across the street, Sunday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 9 to 11. Are you okay with that?
We are.
Another condition is that you are going to have that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week security system.
Yep.
You're okay with that?
Yes, I am.
One of the concerns I had is that there are a number of vacant storefronts that are in the immediate, directly next to your proposed business. I would ask that any expansion of that business, your business, would be treated as a major amendment requiring a public hearing.
That's acceptable to us as well.
Are you planning on doing any packaging at this location?
No, City of Las Vegas precludes us from packaging on site.
Okay. I would like staff, if I could ask a question. We spoke earlier, Mr. McCammond, about a public or private review after 12 months. Did we have a conclusion on that?
Through you, Chairman, give me 1 minute. I'll have to look at the staff report to see how that condition is written.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to the next one. I've had a request from former Commissioner Quinn that your business comply with all the requirements of the Americans with Disability Acts. Will your business do so?
I believe we have to in order to get our CFO.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Rogan. So if you're looking to have a required review placed on this application, we would have to draft that as a condition. If you'd like an administrative review, you just tell us how long, and then during that time, we'll evaluate if there's any calls for service or incidents that would make it fail the required review, we'd then bring it back to Planning Commission, or if you'd like, you have the option to set it as a public hearing before the Planning Commission. So you have that option.
Thank you. I would like a public review within 12 months.
All right, so that condition would probably read as follows: a required review shall be conducted within 12 months of the issuance of a business license at a public hearing at Planning Commission.
Thank you. Are you in agreement with all of those conditions?
Yes, find those all acceptable. Thank you.
With that, I'd make a motion for approval of item number 11 with the conditions imposed by staff as well as the special conditions outlined this evening.
If all heard the motion, please cast your vote. And that motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, this item is moving forward to City Council on September 18th, 2019. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vice Chair. Moving on to related items 26 through 31. Item number 26, abeyance GPA 76573. Applicant owner Misty Rose Holdings LLC et al. For possible action request for a general plan amendment from GC to LIR at 1616, 1622, and 1630 Sunset Drive, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Related item, abeyance ZON 76574 for possible action request for rezoning from C2 to M, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Related item 28, abeyance VAR 76575 for possible action request for a variance to allow 95-foot wide lot width where 100 feet is required and to allow an 8-foot front yard wall where 5 feet is required. 5 feet is the maximum allowed. Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Related item number 29, abeyance SDR 76576 for possible action on a request for site development plan review for a heavy machinery and equipment storage development, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Related item 30, abeyance VAR 76577 for possible action on a request for a variance to allow an 8-foot front yard wall where 5 feet is the maximum allowed, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. And related item 31, abeyance SDR 76578 for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a heavy machinery and equipment storage development, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Commissioner Williams?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to, for the record, disclose I've known Mr. Barlow for several years, and we're actually members of the same fraternity. However, I do not believe that my independence of judgment is compromised. Therefore, I will be voting on this item.
Thank you for the disclosure, Commissioner Williams. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed general plan designation and zoning district is intended to provide for heavy manufacturing industries in locations where they will be compatible with and not adversely impact adjacent land uses. The district is intended to be located away from all residential development. In addition, the proposed site development plans require variances to comply with Title 19 standards. Because of the adjacent residential uses and the associated variances, staff finds the proposed general plan amendment, rezoning, and site development plans to be incompatible with other properties in the area. Staff therefore recommends denial of all applications. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Ricky Barlow for the record, LV Access and Associates, 3172 North Rainbow Suite 202. Thank you, Commissioners, for bringing this item back. This item is before you on an abeyance at the request of Commissioner Williams, who wanted to come out and look at the site to make sure that the message that I delivered at the last Planning Commission was exactly what he had an opportunity to witness in regards to these two particular developments before you here today, Missy Rose as well as Tony Lopez. As I shared with you at the last Planning Commission meeting, these two properties have been in operation for more than 15 years, the same use. And the properties around them, 360, have been in use for more than a decade as well. And the City of Las Vegas made the request that the zoning be brought up to speed and in accordance with city code because of the types of uses on all of the parcels 360 degrees around this particular site. On Sunset, on the east side, it's the City of Las Vegas. On the west side, it's the county. And on the county side as well as the city side, all of these uses are not properly zoned. And so what we're looking to do is come into compliance as the city requested in order that the applicants will have an opportunity to continue to deliver the service that they've been delivering for more than 15 years on each one of these locations. To the north of us is U-Haul, who will be coming in also. And although I don't represent them, I do know that they will be coming in also because they are out of compliance, as well as one of the manufacturers of sandwiches for a lot of these strip hotels. They're out of compliance and they'll be coming in as well with the same application. So you all will be seeing more applications on the city side of the street because all of the properties that are operating in this particular area are non-compliant of the city's zoning. And so what we're looking to do is upgrade the property by bringing in the appropriate landscape buffers. I will be coming back just so that you will know at a later date, asking for some adjustments of the landscape, the interior landscaping on the south, east, and the north property lines. But as of today, we're looking to upgrade the property with the appropriate fencing, as well as the decorative landscaping that we will be bringing, as well as the curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements along this narrow passage right near the corner of Rancho and Vegas. And so I do want to thank Commissioner Williams for coming out, having an opportunity not only to meet with myself, but with the applicant and hear from the applicant and actually see the operations that have been taking place for more than 15 years. And as I mentioned at the last Planning Commission meeting, that one of the applicants, Mr. Lopez, was one of the key drivers in the expansion of of US 95 and I-15 working as one of the subs for Kiewit. And so this is where they were storing a lot of their smaller vehicles for storage. And so in order for him to continue to remain in compliance with the City of Las Vegas, we're requesting the zone change as well as the site development plan and the variances before you here today.
Thank you very much. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. You wanted to add something?
Yes, I do. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we held a neighborhood meeting and city staff was there and no residents came out, but I did go door to door and speak with all of the county residents because there's no city residents on the city side of the street. All of the residents are cat a corner and around the corner from this subject property, and they all basically stated that the operation was there before they moved in, and so they were okay with it. And so that's why I believe no one showed up to the neighborhood meeting in which we held with the appropriate zoning and notification from the City of Las Vegas, and I believe that's why you see no one here in opposition of the request here today.
Thank you. Thanks for adding that to the record. I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as Mr. Barlow stated, I did visit the site twice, actually, because I wanted to make sure I did a 360 view of the site. And again, what's interesting is this is really, if you look at the both the east and west sides of the street, you've got, like-minded businesses happening. But this, in my opinion, this really jumpstarts cleaning up the area.
That's great.
And I think that the fact that when you look at the parking, it's dirt, weeds, just it's unsightly visually, but at the same time, there's significant investment by the owner being put in to really clean up the area.
That is correct.
And the hope is that this really jumpstarts continued cleanup in the area. So I'm prepared to make a recommendation.
Okay, please do.
I'd like to make a recommendation of approval on item GPA 76573.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to make a motion for approval on item Z0N 76574.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion for approval on item SDR 76576.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes.
I'd like to make a motion for...
Commissioner Williams,
I'm sorry.
I think we still have...
Yeah, I get it.
Oh, there we go. Please post. Okay, that motion carries.
That was 76575. I'd like to make a motion for approval on item SDR 76576.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion for approval on item 76577.
Please cast your votes. Item number 30. Please post. And that motion carries.
And I'd like to make a motion for approval on item SDR 76578.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those items will move forward to City Council on September 18th, 2019.
September 18th or 19th?
September 18th.
September 1/8. Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to congratulate and welcome Commissioner Chata to the dais. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I just clarify with the clerk to make sure that you got the vote on VAR 76575?
Yes, we have it as a approved subject to conditions
Thank
as
you.
passed.
Appreciate it.
Great, okay. Moving on to item number 36, abeyance VAR 76601, applicant owner Danuta Suster and Laura St. James, for possible action on request for a variance to allow a 16-foot tall perimeter wall where 12 feet is required, to allow a 13-foot tall front yard wall fence where maximum of 5 feet with a 2-foot solid base is allowed, and to allow a corrugated metal fence where such building materials are not allowed at 325 Falcon Lane, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, no evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented in that the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship by constructing a perimeter wall with unapproved building materials that exceeds the maximum height allowed. Staff therefore recommends denial of the application. Please note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here tonight on item number 36? I don't see our applicant. Commissioner Rogan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant did reach out to me. The applicant was unable to make it this evening, and I told her it would be fine if she didn't come this evening because she was here last time.
Okay. Okay, this was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Seeing no one in the public, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission. Commissioner Rogan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I disagree with staff in the regard that this is a unique circumstance in that this is a very hilly area, a very hilly part of town. And this location, which is an older home in an older part of town, has that substantial change in grade from one part of the street to the other. So I do think that a variance is warranted given the condition of the land for the height of the fence. With regard to the metal, I think that I would like to hear what my fellow commissioners have to say about this metal, because the neighbors are split, about 10 and 10, 10 in support and 10 against. So before I make a final recommendation, I do want to hear some comments from you folks.
Commissioner Schlappman?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you, I mean, looking at this, I mean, my thoughts are the same as they were last month. I like metal, I build homes with metal, but this is a little bit too much metal on a fence. When we're looking at fences in front yards and that face streets, unless if we're on Alta, where we have 10-foot fences with landscaping and everything, I don't think it fits. I mean, we have our planning code that says front yard, 2 feet of solid fence with maximum of 3 foot of open wrought iron or something of the sort above it. I remember the very first planning commission meeting that we had, somebody come in and they had a fence that they put up and it was 8 feet in the front yard. It was solid block. I hated it, and it was presented that, well, this poor little old lady didn't know any better, and she had it put up, and we shouldn't make her tear it down. Come to find out, after the planning commission approved that poor little lady had 8 of these houses around town, all with the same fence, and it didn't look good. That one has stuck with me. This reminds me of the same type of fence. It's not as bad looking as some of the other fences that I've seen, but it just doesn't fit when we're trying to, have the front of your house open in those neighborhoods. It kind of blocks off that home from the rest of the community, and so I just don't feel that that's right, and it won't see my support for those reasons.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just, while the architectural design is pretty cool in nature, I got to tell you, I'm just, it looks like a barrier, and it really sticks out. And we're talking about a corner lot in one of the more historical neighborhoods in town, right? It's been there a long time, and I mean, clearly, you can't even really see what's happening there. I mean, just not a good look, and it looks like a major barrier to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. And Commissioner Toussaint?
Yeah, I look at everything as though I'm walking out my front door and how I would feel if I had to look at this every day. And I can tell you, I don't think it is harmonious or compatible. would not want to look at it. I know some of the neighbors have called me and said they wouldn't want to look at it all the time either. And I realize that these ladies put this up with all good intentions, but like I said, I just wouldn't want to look at it, and I can't vote for something that I personally wouldn't want to look at. So you won't have my support tonight on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Toussaint. Vice Chair DeSalvio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question I have is for staff. So if it was to, with a recommendation for approval, and from what I understand, this wall would need to be engineered in order to even stay up. So let's just say we said, yeah, we're good with it, and it moved on, and they have to have engineering done. And if the engineer, or basically that old wall, couldn't support the weight of their new existing wall, would at that time, even though we made a motion to approve it, would it then be forced into being tore down due to it's under-engineered?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So if it can't be permitted via building permit, it fails to meet life safety restrictions and therefore wouldn't be able to exist any further, it would be told to be removed. They could come in with an alternate material. If the alternate material or reconstruction of the wall meets construction standards for building and safety, then the approval for the wall height would still stand unless the wall came down and it took them over a year's period of time to actually build it.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner Rogan, I'll just add on, I think there's just too much hardscape there personally. I think they did show some pictures in the past where they even talked about it last time, about having some greenery that kind of grows on it. And I like to grow plants, and most of my plants die, so, even if it is the corrugated metal, I think, it easily could be that a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, not the lush picture that was presented to us. I have no problem with the height, I have no problem with them going, but I think just a different style of wall would be appropriate. So I'll go back to you.
Thank you. I think based upon the comments this evening, although I met with these folks and I really like them, I think that the consensus, and I agree, is that this is an inappropriate fence. I don't want to split the request for a height variance with the request for the materials differentiation, so I would just at this time make a motion to deny item 36 VAR 76601.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post, and that motion carries. Okay, moving on to items number 37 and 38.
Sorry, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think we may have,
Excuse me.
Commissioner Chadha? Yeah.
do you want to?
No, Mr. Chairman, so that action is final unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Okay, thank
I
you.
just think she had a correction on her vote. You can just orally say it, Commissioner Chadha.
Yeah, I'd like to vote.
Okay,
Denial.
Hit your mic. Hit your mic.
there you go.
I'm sorry, I'd like to vote in favor of the denial.
Thank you, Commissioner Chadha. Okay, that's noted, and we'll move on to item number 37 and 38. 37 VAR 76816, applicant owner Anthony Gerard, for possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 0-foot side yard setback where 5 feet is required for an existing 1,261 square foot accessory structure, Class 2 detached shade structure at 6880 Unicorn Street, Ward 6. Staff recommends denial. Related item 38, SUP 76817, applicant owner Anthony Gerard, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed 1,480 square foot accessory structure use at 6880 Unicorn Street, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds no evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance that has been presented in that the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship by constructing an accessory structure Class 2 detached shade structure 0 feet from the west property line without proper building permits. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the proposed variance request. However, the proposed accessory structure Class 1 casita structure that provides living quarters, including full kitchen facilities, adheres to all Title 1906 development standards and Title 19 1912 minimum special use permit requirements and has been deemed suitable for the subject site. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the special use permit with conditions. Please note that additional letters of support and protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you get your name and address to the record?
Larry Sanchez, 7844 Soaringbrook Street, engineer on this project. Staff, we are asking for some sort of forgiveness in this. My client purchased this house, and the casita structure was already there. And we're asking for a special use permit to allow a stove inside of that. But as far as the shade structure up against the property line, the shade structure, again, is to give a little bit more protection, if you will, for some of the things that they have on their property. We have reached out to the neighbors just adjacent to where the zero-foot setback is, and we received some letters of approval or support along the zero setback and along the adjacent side where the back of the casita is. That's what I have here.
Would you like to turn those in for the record?
Yes.
Thank you.
The casita is made out of CMU block, so it's non-combustible material. We're about 5 feet away from the property line. The shade structure is also made out of corrugated metal, wrought iron poles, again, non-combustible, but we have things in the backyard to protect it from the weather. That's why we have it there.
Okay, thank you very much. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard on this item? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and go to Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, have received phone calls in support, and, that was my big pet peeve. I had really no problem with the structure. I had no problem with the casita, just because of the fact that these large lots in a rural neighborhood, I pass it all the time, to be honest with you. I received support, and my main thing was if the neighbors were okay with it, I was okay with it. Unless anybody else has any other comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve agenda item number 37, VAR 76816.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And, Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to make a motion to approve SUP 76817, item number 38.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those items are final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
With regard to item 36, I was remiss in not directing Commissioner Rogan to possibly advise with regard to a tear-down date of that particular fence, since you denied the action. So if we could go back to that, and maybe the clerk can we can reopen it and just add a date you think would be appropriate for them to remove the structure?
Okay. Do you want to go through the public hearing process again?
No, we don't need to.
Okay, so item number 36, VAR 76601, this is for applicant owner Danuta Suster and Laura St. James. Commissioner Rogan, do you have a preference on a time frame?
I'm willing to give them 60 days from tomorrow, so whatever that date is.
60 days? We don't need to have a...
No, we'll just add that to the original motion if it's okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogan. All right, moving on to items number 39 through 41. Thanks. 39, VAR 76903, applicant Joe's Bar, owner 2851 North Rancho LLC, for possible action on a request for a variance to allow 35 parking spaces where 146 spaces are required at 2851 North Rancho Drive, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Related item 40, SUP 76904, for possible action request for a special use permit for a 3,470 square foot liquor establishment and a 5,025 square foot outdoor seating area with a waiver to allow 630 8-foot distance separation from a church where 1,500 feet is required at 2851 North Rancho Drive, C2 Zone, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. And finally, related item number 41, SDR 76905, for possible action on request for a site development plan review for a proposed 5,025 square foot outdoor seating area addition to an existing 3,470 square foot commercial building, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Can we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the subject site is Zone C2 General Commercial and is subject to Title 19 development standards. It is home to an existing liquor establishment tavern use approved by the City Council in 1995. Since its initial approval, a church was established within the required 1,500-foot distance separation area. As such, the tavern has been deemed classified as a non-conforming use, which has a maximum expansion size of 50% and was unable to request any changes that would require approval of a variance. The existing use is 3,470 square feet, which would allow a maximum outdoor seating area expansion of 1,735 square feet. The applicant now proposes to expand the current tavern use with a 5,025 square foot outdoor seating area. Per the submitted justification letter, this area would be utilized to host outdoor events such as cornhole tournaments. In order to expand the outdoor seating area greater than the allowed 1,735 square feet, the applicant requests approval of a new special use permit with a waiver of distance separation from the existing church. The applicant also requests a variance to allow 35 parking spaces where 146 would be required. While there is no new permanent structures that are being proposed, whenever the outdoor events will occur, parking spaces located at the rear of the site will be blocked off. Due to the associated variance for parking and distance separation waiver, staff recommends denial of all requested entitlements. If approved, the original special use permit will be expunged. If denied, the original special use permit will remain intact, which will allow for a maximum 50% expansion of the subject use on the site. Please note that additional letters of support and protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Evening. My name is Joe Signor. Address is 2851 North Rancho Drive. I own Joe's Bar and Grill.
Thank you. Can you tell us about the application?
So one thing that we do at Joe's Bar is we have a cornhole league. And we've done it since I've been open, which is about a year, almost a year and a half. And it's something that we do because our customers love playing, and it's something that I think makes me different than any other bar in that area. The numbers are a little bit exaggerated. I don't need that much square footage. We have a cornhole league that plays every Thursday. We have 44 people that come out and play. Basically, we use up 8 parking spots. I need an area 72 feet length by 35 feet. Yes, we will use up 9 parking spaces. We currently have 53 that we use now, so that would knock us down to 44. But like I said, we've been doing it for a year and a half, and parking has never been an issue. Our customers either walk to the bar, carpool, or they take Lyft and Uber. But I would like to have that area where we play in the back of behind the bar. You can see it on the map here. That's where we play, and the reason why I'm here today is I would like to be able to serve alcohol while we play.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, turn over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Signor, the fact that we've got several requests here, 3 requests, and you'd like to change use, and I understand you don't need the entire 5,000 square feet for cornhole, which is a pretty cool game. I like it myself. Are you open to having me come out and us meet and really understand this? Because I'd really like to visit the site, have some
Sure,
conversation.
Commissioner, yeah, anytime, just let me know when. I'm there every day.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, I'd like to hold this in abeyance for 30 days, if I could, please.
Okay, and yes, I just have one question for staff. The previous events, were those done with like special event permits? Is that how it was done previously?
Yes, Chairman, I believe you have been applying for special...
Yes, I've been working with the planning department. The short-term solution was to get special event permits
Okay.
for 20-some dates, which we are using now.
Okay, and then isn't there like an annual thing that a person can apply for with special events, and then they just come to the city and say, we're doing, the first Thursday of the month?
Mr. Chairman, I believe the general rule is just a maximum of 24 events per year. I don't believe there's another rule.
Okay, maybe, because I felt like First Friday was under that same setup, but, they were only doing that once a month. Commissioner Schlotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you, just a comment for the applicant and maybe for Commissioner Williams. I played quite a bit of cornhole in my time as well. I have a couple of boards sitting in my garage. It's a cool sport, especially at a bar, and just looking at the houses directly behind you, if y'all could look at possibly coming up with some hours that you think would be appropriate for that. And
We do. We start at 7 p.m. and usually finish by 9. Sometimes a match will go into 9:30, but it's not later than that.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Rogan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, in your application, you said it's a 12-week season, so you're only really doing this 3 months out of the year?
Well, no, we usually have three seasons. So after a season is over, then we'll take a couple of weeks off, and then we'll start the next season.
So it's really 36 times that you're doing this in a year? Okay, all right, thank you.
It's the majority of the year, yes.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Williams, I believe, has requested for an abeyance of 30 days, and I believe the Planning Commission can do that one time, is that correct? Yeah. So was that your motion, Commissioner Williams?
Yes, I'll make a motion. I'd like to motion for an abeyance of 30 days on item 38, item 39, 76903, item 40, 76904, and item 41, 76905.
And that's to the September 24th meeting, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And your agreement with the abeyance?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, 30 days would be September 10th.
My apologies, correct, September 10th. Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, moving on to item number 42. This is a cannabis application. I will be abstaining from it. My family's in the cannabis industry. And turn over to Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes.
I just would like to go ahead and start off with the disclosure that I've worked on, built many production, cultivation dispensaries in the past. This won't affect my independence and judgment. I don't have any ongoing business with this applicant, or never had any business with this applicant to my knowledge. Thank you. And so I'll be voting on this matter.
Thank you very much. Item number 42, SUP 76892, special use permit, public hearing, application Lone Mountain Partners LLC, owner Remand Inc., for possible action for a request for a special use permit for a proposed 3,784 square foot marijuana dispensary, use at 5240 West Charleston Boulevard. Staff report, please.
Mr. Commissioner, the subject site is Zone C1 Limited Commercial and is subject to Title 19 development standards. The applicant proposes to operate within an existing 3,784 square foot commercial building. No new structural development is proposed at this time. There are no confirmed protected land uses located within the required distance separation area. However, there is an existing martial arts studio which serves adults and children equally, located within the required distance separation area. The subject site complies with all minimum distance separation requirements set forth by Title 1912 and therefore can be conducted in a compatible and harmonious manner with the existing surrounding land uses. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this request with conditions. Please note that additional letters of support and protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening. Jay Brown, 520 South 4th Street, representing the applicant. And as is stated by staff and yourself, the applicant is requesting a special use permit for a proposed marijuana dispensary use within an existing commercial building at 5240 West Charleston in a C1 zone. Access to the dispensary will be through Charleston Boulevard, a 100-foot primary arterial. We meet, as you heard, all legal requirements. Staff has recommended approval, and we'd appreciate your recommendation of approval as well.
Thank you, sir. This is noticed as a public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to be heard on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to Commissioner. Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, good evening.
Good evening.
You heard the conditions that I put on the previous applicant on item number 11. Do you have any problems with similar conditions?
Frankly, I was very clear on the hours of operation, but if you would go over those, certainly I accept the hours of operation that you did previously.
Okay. So the condition that I was interested in first for the hours of operation are Sunday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 9 to 11.
It's agreeable.
All right. You'll provide 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week security.
Agreeable.
Any expansion of this business will be treated as a major amendment requiring a public hearing.
Agreeable.
You'll have a public review before Planning Commission within 12 months of obtaining your business license.
Frankly, of course, we'll accept whatever the vote is, but this is not controversial like that item was. And as Mr. Lowenstein suggested, you had some alternatives, and we think administrative review here would be preferable.
Mr. Brown, you had 18 protests and 1 support.
Until I heard that, it wasn't read into the record. If you look at the staff report that I had, it was 0 with 348 notices and 18 associations. It's your motion.
Are you agreeable to it?
I can't speak on behalf of my client. We're going to accept whatever you say. I mean, we're not going to appeal it.
Thank you.
That's
I did have a question for you, too, before I proceed. The garbage bins that really are on the other side of the wall from this residential neighborhood, what kind of materials are being thrown in there? Anything related to marijuana? Anything that would cause an odor or a stench other than normal garbage?
No. And when I heard that was a concern, I drove there, and one, unlike some other places that you referred to, the residences are across Alpine. So, and they can't even see it. I mean, again, odor goes over sight, but I don't foresee any problems at all with that, and I'll make sure that they know of your concern.
So there'll be no disposal of any marijuana-related, or I guess any marijuana or marijuana paraphernalia that would have a stench in those bins, correct?
That's correct. Agreeable.
Okay. All right. Those would be the conditions that I would suggest, and I'll turn it over to my fellow commissioners if they have any comment.
Anybody else have any comments?
Mr. Vice Chair.
Please, Mr.
Just a comment. It seems like Mr. Brown and Commissioner Rogan are in agreement on these hours of operation. Just a general, and I'll go along with that as well, but just a general comment as I see dispensaries in the future. You know, we live in a 24-hour town, not saying that we need to have them open 24 hours a day, but I remember Commissioner Toussaint making a comment on a past application that it was brought up that, you know, well, what happens if people are going there at 1 o'clock in the morning? Well, some people work different hours and, you know, work 24 hours a day. So cutting off a dispensary at 9 o'clock, I don't know if it's necessarily appropriate. I'm not going to say anything on this application. Seems like everyone's in agreement on that, but moving forward, we need unless if it's, you know, adjacent to houses or if it's going to cause some sort of other disturbance or something, but on a commercial corridor, people are coming in the front typically, they're leaving out the front, and it doesn't really, I don't see how the hours will really affect anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else wish to be heard? Commissioner Toussaint.
Yeah, I will support this application, but I do agree with Commissioner Schlottman. I grew up in this town. My parents worked graveyard, they work swing. A lot of people work different hours. If this is what the will of Commissioner Rogan is to have hours, I will support that. But I think in this location and how we live and what people do in this town, typically, I don't support hours, I really don't, but you will have my support on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Toussaint. Commissioner Rogan.
I mean, if the will of this commission is not to impose limitations on hours at this particular location, I'm all right with that, but my concern, as I expressed at item 11, was consistency and predictability, and that's why I was looking at imposing this condition. If that is not what others want on this, I'm willing to modify that and remove it.
Mr. Chair? If I, each land, and for Commissioner Rogan, each land use decision is special and unique based upon what's developed around it. So in certain instances, we have Walmarts that are open 24 hours, and others that are more close to neighborhoods, you may have less hours. So depending on what's around it, you're able to justify whatever conditions you want to place on it based upon what's currently developed around it. If this was a more industrial area, maybe 24 hours would be okay. If it's a more residential area, maybe the hours would be, limited hours would be okay. So really just based upon your reading of the background information, what's currently developed in the area, you're able to place whatever conditions you feel would mitigate any secondary effects of this particular application. And they can be different from dispensary to dispensary, so.
Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Scott. I do have concerns given that this retail location is very close to that neighborhood just on the other side of Alpine, and I understand that there is that street that is separating the two, so I do think it is appropriate that we have those hours. Just down the street with the Silver Sage Medical Marijuana Dispensary, or what was a medical marijuana dispensary, I believe that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I don't like that at all, considering that it's similarly bordering this residential neighborhood. So that's why I suggested it, and that's would be my preference. But as I said, if there are other comments saying that that is inappropriate, I'd be willing to amend it. All right, well, hearing none, I would make a motion to approve item 42, SUP 76892, with staff conditions as well as the other special conditions laid out here this evening.
And that motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, that item will move forward to City Council on September 18th, 2019. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 44, SDR 76888, applicant owner Square Trade Holdings LLC, for possible action request for site development plan review for proposed 8-unit multifamily residential development with waivers to the downtown Las Vegas Appendix F parking and landscaping requirements at 638 North 9th Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed 8-unit multifamily residential use is permitted in the R3 medium-density residential zoning district. The subject site is currently an undeveloped parcel located within an existing residential neighborhood. While an apartment building is an appropriate use, the submitted 8-unit apartment building is excessive for the size of the parcel. Waivers have been requested to allow 6 parking spaces where 12 spaces are required, to allow a 0-foot landscape buffer width along the north and south property lines where 6 feet is required, and to allow a 0-foot landscape buffer width along the east and west property lines where 10 feet is required. Due to the proposed parking and landscape buffer waiver, staff finds that the proposed development is not appropriate for the subject site as submitted. Therefore, staff recommends denial. Please note that additional letters of protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Charlie Conkaby, 4345 Corporate Center Drive.
Charlie, can you spell your last name for me, please?
Concoby.
Thank you.
You bet.
Can you tell us about the application?
Yeah, we had purchased this property. We had changed it from a public facility back roughly a year ago, things like that, to mixed use. So we're trying to put something to uplift that area, that community that's close to Fremont Street District. It's within a quarter mile. We feel that with the parking waiver, with the mass transit that is close by as well, that it warrants that to where the parking. There should be there are pictures in there as well as far as that you saw there of the alley that's on the back side. Parking there, we'd be putting parking across there, and certainly there's parking that is people kind of parking on the west side, which is on 9th Street, and the alley with it they back up, but we're hoping to be able to build our 8-plex building there and uplift the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Please come on up. I could just have you step aside. I'll need your name and address to the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Alberto Gonzalez. I live in 712 North 9th Street. I think the 8 apartments on that little 7,000 square feet, it's too much. I'm not the only one. I talked to my neighbors, which are the owners of the houses, and they're not okay with this. I mean, there's not enough parking. And like I say, I mean, I don't know what's worse, having the marijuana or having these apartments, because 2 blocks behind North 9, there's complexes of 4 and 6 apartments, and there's a bunch of trouble always. Pretty bad. So it's not as a residential, I just bought my house there like a couple months ago, and I know all my neighbors, like who live on the houses. And then they're, like I say, they're gonna park on 9th Street, which is, looks really nice, wide open street, no cars. And then I know the police station is right in front, but they're gonna bring more job to them. I mean, it's just one thing, kind of simple. I have all the information on my neighbors, which are the owners and residents of the houses, and they're not okay with this, and I hope you guys can help us too.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Thanks for coming out. Anyone else like to be heard? Seeing no one else, I'll close the public hearing. I'll have you come back up if you'd like to have a quick rebuttal.
Yeah, when we have spent some time, walking, that neighborhood, we weren't aware of anyone that had any concerns there. Those that we had talked to that are in those apartment buildings that are currently right adjacent to it, they were happy because they're constantly trying to, get those homeless folks and things off of that vacant property that's been there for quite some time. And so they were happy with talking about new construction of building their lights, as far as to light the alleyway, which there is really not much current light there at night. And so that is our hope, to give more light to that neighborhood, and not to draw any more of that type of nuisance, I guess. But it's there to just uplift the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Schlotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you. I looked at this parcel, and I know where this parcel's at, right by Metro, and I considered the waivers and so on and so forth. I did reach out to the applicant and asked them, on the front, instead of just having the 4 windows, is there anything we could do to make this building look better? There's a lot of apartments in the neighborhood. There's 4-plexes, 6-plexes, 8-plexes, not a lot of landscaping. I see landscaping on this plan. I know that we have a little bit of a parking variance that we're requesting, but I think we need to elevate the neighborhood a little bit, and just putting the building in the way that you have it designed, I don't think is helping elevate that neighborhood. It's not helping revitalize that neighborhood. So did y'all have a chance to think about any kind of stone facade or anything, pop-outs, anything that you can do to kind of make this building look a little bit better from the street frontage?
Yes, if you look here, this is what the west-facing 9th Street there. We had just had a neighborhood meeting on another site that they weren't happy with the stone, the facade that we put on the building. They said it's too Summerlin-y, so we said something that matched more of the neighborhood, and so we had put pop-outs here. We kind of put this band across where there, I mean, we can certainly put, stone across there. But that was the feedback that we just recently got last week at another meeting, was that it was on Santa Paula, that we didn't want this stone entry and archway, that we kind of made it real nice, and they said we want it to be more not Summerlin-y. So that's kind of what we were going there. But we were certainly open to add any additional architectural features there to the building, for sure.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm not going to tell you to put stone or anything else, because I'm not here to design your project. I just want to make something look better. But I want to see if there's any other comments, if anybody has anything to add before we move forward with this. And is that new, or that wasn't?
This right here is new from when we recently discussed, and so we talked with the architect and we put these on there. These pop outs around the windows, and this band was not there before.
It looks a lot better just with a little bit of color, just a little bit of pop out, but we'll see if anybody else has any comments.
Commissioner Rogan?
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Schlottman. I think that the original design that we were looking at was very bland, and I don't think it's harmonious with a neighborhood when you say, well, look, there's all these other neighbors that are kind of downtrodden, down on their luck homes, and so I'm very concerned that you do uplift the neighborhood, that you do add some landscaping in addition to what you've discussed here tonight. Do you have any plans to add that kind of landscaping?
So we're trying to get, with the walkways, the way they are, trying to get as much landscaping in there as possible with the open area.
So if I could just ask a question. So we're looking at a very narrow band of landscaping there along the perimeter of the eightplex, correct?
Yes, there's 5-foot setbacks, there's 2 feet.
Yeah.
Where we have shrubs here, and then it goes to 4 feet on both sides of the parking areas on both sides of the building.
Thank you.
One question. There's a ADA stall in the back, correct? Or is that in the alleyway?
Yes.
And it's a van accessible stall as well?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Schlottman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, based on the revised elevations and the testimony heard tonight, I would be willing to make a motion to approve item 44, SDR 76888, subject to staff's conditions and subject to the revised elevation. Can we have that part of the record? It's in the backup already?
The elevation that they're showing is in the back. Commissioner Schlottman, before you finish your motion, I think Vice Chair DeSalvio wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, please. To me, it doesn't feel harmonious and compatible. Yes, listen, I'm the first one here to tell you I'm in favor of any construction, okay? But it just seems like it's so overbuilt to the point where you're talking about 2-foot landscape buffers, you're talking about not having the right parking. Why are you so intense on that property? There's not, based on this, what I'm looking at right now, I mean, there is not a square inch to spare. Is there a way that you can like tone this down a little bit and make it fit more into this community than this is right now? Because to me, it looks like a tough shed with windows. It looks like it does not fit. I pass this place all the time. My training center's down there on Bonanza. I go past that Metroplex probably 10 times a day. And this building does not fit that neighborhood. I mean, yes, it's great new developments coming in, but I mean, you stuffed every square inch you could in here to the point where you don't even have adequate parking, let alone landscaping. And I don't think that's uplifting the community. It looks like a prison camp.
So on this property is, So I don't want to bring up another one, but we were going through a couple with the city planning. And on 9th Street, I guess we were trying to get as many, as far as parking spots, we could, because we know that we were already below that. We took off as far as on 9th Street, say if we took the parking off there and put more landscaping, but that's also taken off more of the parking. We're only, 50 feet, wide on this lot to begin with. I mean, it's pretty narrow. So as far as the parking stalls, you can only get so many parking stalls on that lot, to begin with, whether it's on the alley side or the 9th Street side.
I guess as a follow-up, does it have to be that intense? I mean, how many units we talking here right now?
8.
8 units, and there's no way to cut it down to a fourplex and actually fit the neighborhood more harmoniously, have the adequate parking, instead of just, what this looks like? It's like, 5 pounds of what, and it just doesn't look like it fit, at least in my opinion. It doesn't fit the neighborhood, just like the person that stood up here and testified to that based on his neighbors. It just seems too overbuilt to the point where you're asking for stuff that you should actually be putting in to improve this neighborhood, not asking to have it taken away, in my opinion.
Commissioner Slav?
Mr. Chairman, based on this and, listen to the concerns of everybody up here, I want to ask the applicant if they'd be willing to hold this for 30 days and meet with us, and we could take a look at the landscaping. We could take a look at the project. Maybe you can get this gentleman's number back here, meet with him and see if he can see if he has any helpful suggestions to get him on board and his neighbor on board. I don't think you're, I mean, from me looking at this, I don't think you're too far off from trying to, or bringing us a project that we can improve, but I think you can massage a few things and make it a lot better project, and I think by holding it 30 days, it will give us that level of comfort, hopefully give us that level of comfort. But if you would, please reach out to him, and you can reach out to me as well, because I'd like to take a look at this on site with you and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Commissioner Slavin, if I could just add, I went kind of back and forth, from when I read it to hearing more of the testimony. And one of the things that jumped out to me is the backing out into 9th Street, even though there are other cars or other places down the street that kind of do the same thing. So I kind of got over that. But one of my initial thoughts was, why isn't this a fourplex? And I will say, well, you have a nice project, and I think it's going to be something that kind of kickstarts something that happens in this area, in this neighborhood, just like your vision is to do. So it is important, I think, for the Planning Commission to kind of look at it as a whole and hopefully start it off in the right direction. So I'm glad you are doing an abeyance, requesting an abeyance.
And to your point, Mr. Chairman, I looked at that same exact point of backing out into the street, and I went back and forth on that. If you recall my 11th Street lofts, I had a project where we backed out across the sidewalk onto a street, and so it's not one thing on this project. I think it's everything that we just need to take a look at everything together and see what we can massage to, if there's just a few things that we can do to make this a better project, I think we'll be doing our neighborhood and our neighbors, giving them a level of comfort that we should be giving them. So with that being said, I'll make a motion to hold this item, item SDR 76888, for 30 days to the September 10th Planning Commission hearing.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. Peter? Oh, it's obeyed. You're right. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Moving on to citizens participation, moving on to director's business, 45. TXT 76973, Applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for possible action on a request to amend the development uses section of the Town Center Development Standards Manual to allow auto sales showroom and valet parking uses and to provide for other related matters. Staff has no recommendation. Could we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed text amendment would add the auto sales showroom and the valet parking uses to the Town Center Development Standards Manual. The definitions and requirements for each use would be identical to those as they appear in Las Vegas Municipal Code Title 19. The uses would be allowed in Town Center Special Land Use Districts comparable to the zoning districts in Title 19 where the uses are currently allowed. Staff has no recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard on this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission for discussion. I personally don't have any issues with the request. I think this also gives, like a hospital out there, the opportunity to have valet out in that area, which kind of helped stir this. Vice Chair DeSalvio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is pretty much falls out in my ward, and this is something that is well needed for the community. So if there's no other comment, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve text amendment 76973, item 45 for approval.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. And that will be forwarded to City Council in ordinance form.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is exactly what will occur.
Thank you. All right, moving on to citizen participation. Item number 46, citizens participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to the matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Planning Commission unless the subject is on the agenda. It is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. This is noticed as a public portion. Can you get your name and address for the record, please, sir?
My name is Dean Smith. I live at 4833 Nettie Avenue, and I'm not certain. I'm supposed to be here tonight for a meeting on a variance from the city, and we've all got a notice in the mail, and I believe we're supposed to be here tonight. Am I in the correct spot and everything?
Those were items 18 and 19.
So that was part of the one motion, one vote in the agenda?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. We've been fighting this property for over 25 years, and we need clarification on it. And I don't know. I loosely represent everyone in my neighborhood.
Okay. So, Mr. Smith, this was on the one motion, one vote. It was approved, but it will go forward to City Council, so you'll have an opportunity to go and speak. And if you'd like to add some comments for the record now.
Yes, I would.
Please do. And
All
then
right.
they'll be noted, and additionally, you can go to City Council to be heard as well.
All right, I thought this was on the agenda so that we could speak our opposition to this.
Yeah, there was an opportunity to pull it from there, but, no one came up for those items, so.
I didn't understand. I'm working on a handicap. I left my reading glasses in my truck, and I didn't understand.
I totally understand. So if you'd like to give some comments for the record.
Yes.
You're welcome.
We've been fighting, and I don't understand what the variance request is. What is being asked for to be built on this property? Can you clarify that for me, please?
Mr. Chair, for the record, could we maybe just call out those numbers for the clerk so that they can keep a record of it? And then maybe the planning staff can briefly give a comment?
Absolutely. This is item 18 VAR 76861 and related item 19 SDR 76862. And I'll go to staff to give a brief comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a request on the 3.9 acres at the southwest corner of Marion Drive and Harris Avenue. As for a proposed park consisting of sports fields, a tot lot, and an equestrian facility. The subject site is in a civic zoning district and public facility land use designation. There is some requests for relief from a little landscape buffer and parking lot landscaping that is required, which is supported by staff. And that pretty much sums up. If there's specific questions, we have if you want to see what the design is in that book, we do have the backup materials available for you to.
Okay, I basically understand what was requested several years ago when we denied this request for a city park. And I took a petition and I had it signed by about 80% of the residents in this entire neighborhood. And we all asked at that time to be left as is, as an undeveloped area, mainly because the streets that are involved in it, the school that is on Harris and Marion, there's a very severe curve. Marion and Harris dead end and into each other. And 25 years ago, a developer wanted to develop this entire area into, he wanted to change the zoning. We're all on half-acre estates in that area. We all have horse property, and we wanted to leave the property as it was, undeveloped for the horse people. Now, the property that is left, this 3.9 acres, it's basically a landlocked property. At the curve on Marion and Harris, it was already rejected to put in a street cut there for the developer 25 years ago. It was rejected by city. So the only other legal way into the property is Nettie Avenue, which I live on. There are, it's a very short street. There's only 2 residences on each side of the street, and then that street dead ends with concrete buffers. So at the time, we requested not to do anything with the property because all the traffic that was going to go into this recreation park was going to have to come down Nettie Avenue, which is undeveloped. There's no streets and gutters because it's horse property, and the horses travel up and down the side of the streets. Okay, having said that, I gave the petition to Bob Coffin, the former representative for our area, and evidently at that time, we understood that that was no longer going to be developed. Okay, they wanted to put in the baseball fields, the soccer fields, and all these other things. Well, right now, there's that park being developed on Washington, which is 2 streets away. It's a major park that's going in there for soccer, baseball, whatever. It's nicely developed. It's coming right along. And also, the school that's right there on Marion and Harris, they already have those same amenities. So to waste money on this landlocked property just doesn't make sense. So I would like to take that into consideration, that you're dealing with a landlocked property. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up on the comments. We did
Yes,
vote on
I
it,
understand.
and you will have an opportunity to be at City Council to go on record with these very specific things that you'd like to discuss.
All right. One other thing I'd like to say is all of us property owners that are in this area here, we were not notified. Everyone was not notified because I went around to quite a few residences, and they were not notified of this meeting tonight on this agenda. So,
okay, this goes to City Council on September 18th.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Okay, and
And city, it'll be from 11 a.m. on the agenda. So the best thing to do is to either go to the website or come back to City Hall and receive an agenda. You can see where it's at on the agenda, but
all right.
it's
Will we
September
be
18th.
notified with one of these circulars through the mail?
I don't believe there's another card that goes out after the initial.
No,
I'll
Mr. Chair,
defer to-
there's no additional notification. This is the notification.
This is the notification.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, in conclusion, we would not like to have this property developed anyway. It'll put a lot more traffic on our streets because of the school already. We're already fighting traffic with that. We cannot get speed bumps put in. We can't get the traffic slowed down on these residential streets.
Okay,
We do not want anything to do with this property.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
out. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to be heard?
Hi, James Reynolds, 122 Bernary Drive. I was here on behalf of the applicant for the consent item number 9, so I might have just missed it. I didn't know if I was supposed to agree to staff's conditions or...
That was approved
already
on the
passed?
consent.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Yeah.
You enjoyed the meeting?
Did you get the bill for that? Yeah. All right. Meeting is adjourned.